All right, I'm about to take a stance that people, it's really going to fire up the YouTube warriors, no doubt. This one might even be more aggressive than hating on the 2.8 liter Duramax. Those guys did not take that criticism well. They're grumpy with me. I don't care. It's kind of like, how with everybody's had a point in their life, or a friend or somebody that's dated somebody that has manipulated them into thinking that they're actually in a healthy relationship, and they're not. That's kind of what's going on with the 2.8 Duramax and their owners. GM has manipulated them that it's okay to have a service life on an oil pump under 150,000. It's got a belt, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the legendary engines that built America, right? And this is the 855. This is one I've got torn down. You can see it broke a liner, but the 855 series, let me find a good place to set this up while I finish my oil change here. So the 855, I can't remember precisely when Cummins debuted this engine. See, it had tons and tons and tons of series. I think it came out in the 40s. Not the 40s, definitely in the 50s with the NH series. I can't remember if the NH was absolutely the first, but that was like the first very popular run of the 855 block. And that was the first very popular run of this engine. It was a naturally aspirated little son of a gun, and then they put a supercharger on it, and I think that's the NH series. It was pre-turbo, had a supercharger, and I think that made 200 horse or so. And at this time, Caterpillar was not making truck engines. They were not interested in making truck engines, and Cummins was dominating that market. Detroit was they weren't really, they were out there. So the two-stroke series started about the same vintage, I think, as these. Let me grab a rag here. But anyways, yeah, the early, pretty much, I'd say the big Cummins, the really first kind of make its big point in the truck world is the 220. 220 horse, 855 cubic inches. For its time, that was a screamer. Well, time goes on, and they change the injection pumps, and they get a turbocharger, and then they had the 290. That was a big hitter for its time. And then after the 290 came the 335. That was a big one. Then you had the 350, and then the 350 went to the 400. And then this motor, it was sold clear up to 475 horse in a twin turbo configuration. And it's a cam in block design, push rod engine. They had a big cam and they have big cams and small cams. You can tell these are both big cam motors. You can tell by the size of the cam followers here. You can see them down in there. They ride on the cam. Maybe you can't, but anyways, the size of the cam box, the cam follower boxes will tell you whether you got a small cam or a big cam. And the power, I think there were 400 horse small cams, but when I say small cam, I mean the actual diameter of the cam, not so much the lobe duration. High, low, big. Not so much the lobe duration as the actual size of the cam. And they actually, the small cams were known to break cams a little bit. And so that's why later years they went to the actual diameter of the camshaft is just bigger. And the big cams really, in my opinion, they kind of built America. And Cat had, when everybody talks about Peterbilts and Kenworths, everybody's always looking for a cat motor, and I'm not particularly that guy. I guess in these older vintage trucks, I'd rather have the 855. And to be honest, I think I'd rather have the N14, because in those competing years, for the most part, these are mountain trucks. They got good jakes. This is the engine that the jake brake was designed on. and it's 100 times better than the engine braking of any year cat comparison that the 855s ran in. And so if you're doing any bit of mountain hauling, the retarding horsepower that these will make is way greater than any of those cats. And rebuilds are cheaper. The rebuild kit for that one is $1,600. I don't know what the heads are going to cost to get rebuilt, but I think a competing cat in-frame kit is probably $2,500 or $3,000, at least double. So you've got all that kind of stuff to keep in mind. Plus, pretty easy to run an overhead on. Parts are readily available. These engines were in everything from tractors to trucks to anything you can wave a stick at. They put one of these in there. Nice. But just good and reliable and cheap injectors, cheap fuel systems. The fuel systems aren't timed, so anybody can R&R them really easy. They are just really a user-friendly, and the cat guys can say what they want, but the 855 built America. It was in more equipment and more trucks, and it was a better, I don't know. This one makes pretty good power, and there's some big cams out there that make pretty dang good power. But the cats pulled hard down low, and that's really where they made their mark, was that down low torque curve that they kind of are known for. Well, that's fine and dandy, but rebuilds are more expensive. They take more of a mechanic to understand them. The pumps are way more expensive to rebuild. And I'm a cat guy. When it comes to heavy equipment, I love cats. But I've just kind of grown to appreciate these for what they are. And, truth be told, I mean, they'll keep up with the best of them. But, yeah, in the 855 and the N14, the NTCs, N14s are, I'm pretty sure the blocks are the same, but they're very similar design, same fuel systems, and the L10s shared a fuel system with them. And but to touch on the basic points of why I think this engine is better, but the biggest one is the Jakes are so much better than a cat. I haven't driven the new cats, I've been around the C15s, and they got good Jakes, but see, that's when they went to kind of a unit style injector. What the 3406As and Bs, terrible Jakes. These hit 100 times harder than those do, and so we got that. These are relatively fuel efficient engines for what they are. I think I don't know. I think this truck does. If I'm running her hard through the mountains, it's like 4.5, but it'll do 5-6 miles a gallon for me sometimes if I'm nice to it. But starts up, reliable. Injectors are cheap. Overheads are easy to run. Just the biggest thing I don't like about them is, you'd have to add the cruise control on if you want. That's nice to hit cruise on the long haul, but yeah, man, when it comes to trucking, I kind of seek these engines out for dump trucks and OTR trucks and whatever. I'm just familiar with them, and so I enjoy them. And they're just darn reliable for what you pay. I mean, I don't think there's a better bang for your buck out there. These engines, you keep them full of oil and keep them from getting too terrible hot, and they'll just, honestly, they'll handle a pretty aggressive heat cycle and get along okay. But see, here's your PT fuel system. This one has a high-end governor, so you can actually adjust. I got zip tied wide open right now. That's so you can adjust your high idle. So like this truck ran a pneumatic trailer at some point, and so they'd set high idle at 1500, and then you just floor your bottom throttle down here and let it go. But super simple fuel systems. Make sure everything's still good and tight. This one's tried to walk around on me a few times. Anyways, basic, real easy. I mean, simple to work on. I don't know what CPL this one is. I think it's 625. Yep. So I'm building that engine to be just like this one, with liners and pistons and things like that. But yeah, you can see. I don't know what CPL tag this one was, because the CPL tag's missing. I know it was rebuilt in '93. There's your top of your piston. This one is a 1, 2, 3, 4 ring piston. Yep, that's what I'm going back in it with. See, I think this one might have been built to a 625 CPL code at some point, but it's just hard telling. It already has bigger liners. That's kind of a weird noise. What was that noise? Anyways, this is a liner that broke. Kind of wild. It scored and it really just trashed up that piston. And I think why it did, yeah, if you look at the brake, see the brake seems to have started here on your hard edge. And these things are wicked hard to steel. So you get a little crack in there and away they go. And I know this truck was definitely against the governor when it went, because it's gear bound, because it's a 65 or something, I think. It's gear bound to about 60. And the guy that was driving it had her just all the way, right? And yeah, I'm sure he just decided to go, and it's not really his fault, but it is what it is. And so now got the kit ordered and got the liners pulled out, and crank looks good. And so that's handy. You can see it was this one. There's piston cooler. This one's missing one. That's the one that broke. Oh, nope, this one. So that didn't help, but the guy that was driving it was smart enough to realize there's a big issue and shut her down where things got wild. So that's good. But yeah, this truck's pretty cool. This one is a 4 and a 4, and then you got 3 sticks in here. You got 1, 2, and there's your winch. You're in and out on the winch. Got a flat dash in it. She is just cool. I've been able to drive this truck a couple times. Kind of a neat old bird, not gonna lie. Yeah, she's what is this thing? What is it? Let's say 358A is what it is. Cool darn truck for what it is. And yeah, I got a big old Tulsa winch, walking beam. You got your ramps on there for your float trailers. Just a cool rig. And this thing's just a good old OTR of the 80s. This old girl gets worked pretty hard. Had to put an old mismatched tire on. Went to the scrapyard and shoved a bolt right clean in the sidewall of the other tire. And it's like, well, I'm not putting a new tire on next to that one. I'm not quite ready to get rid of that one yet. So that's what we get. But yeah, I put the little fuel tanks on her because I think they look better. Get you up out of the dirt when you're doing that off-roading stuff. How do you like that? There's the VIN number. Sketchy. But anyways, it's kind of odd. This truck did run the old owner over with 3 6s in the VIN, but I'm not too concerned. I'm going to stay out from under it. But yeah, I guess I should stick to the point. I get sidetracked, a rabbit trail too bad. Where I was headed with that was, okay, so where these engines will beat a cat for me is Jake's cost to rebuild, cost to own, parts availability. Their parts are cheap. They're easy to come by. Fuel mileage is pretty good. You know, honestly, I do prefer this engine over a cat of its competing time. Don't get me wrong. If somebody said, "Here's a 6NZ to put in this," I'd probably wait till it blew up and then I would do it, which could be a long time. These engines were known to go 1,000,000 miles for a major rebuild. So, and the other thing too is there's 3 separate heads. I'll show you. Yeah, I can't really see, but there's 3 separate heads in there. And these 359s have monster amounts of cooling, so you just can't even get this engine warmed up when you want to. But here's the heads off this truck. You can take them in to get rebuilt. 3 separate heads. They're easy to R&R without any big tools. Just a really pretty simple design. I'll climb up there. You can see the valve covers. They are after-cooled. They have the water-to-air aftercooler. That's what this thing is, water-to-air. And yeah, valve covers. But she's a peach. Good old motors. And yeah, you're talking big monster power. You're probably gonna want to go, I guess, if you really, and if you're gonna put the money in, and that's all you care about is big power to go down the road. Well, you're not too concerned about profitability, anyways, I guess. So then at that point, it doesn't matter. But man, an engine to get started and just be reliable, that's it right there. So Yeah, I need to finish my oil change. I'm getting sidetracked here. Dig. Ebe. Ah. Mm. Yeah, I already at my mileage for what I wanted to change oil at. It's not like I got a bunch of time the rest of the week to do it. I was already had this out and warmed up today, delivering that other truck. So like, well, I guess now is the time. Just like everything I got, this is going to get Schaefer's too. Get such a reasonable deal on it, and it's such good oil. There's no reason not to, that's for sure. Got my coolant filter in too. I'll change that. I'm making a weird noise out there. Not sure what it is. But, yeah, pretty good engines to get started with. You know, it may not be the king of creature comfort, but cheap, reliable, these are the ones. And they made them clear up until good night. Whenever the N14 first debuted, which was the early 90s, and even then I still think you could get the late, it would have been a big cam 5, which would have been one of the formula engines. You still could get one even back then. Pretty late, but the N14 is awesome too. I'll take an N14. You know, I'd take an N14 over all the cats probably, just for reliability and simplicity and cheap rebuilds. And plus, I like the cats, but the guys that I on the social media and all that are these big Caterpillar guys, you drive me nuts. You know, they make it sound like you just can't make a living without one. Don't get me wrong, good engines, and they make good power. And there's a lot of good guys that have them, but everybody knows who I'm talking about. Those few cheese wheel guys. They act like if you don't have a cat, you just can't get along, and that's wrong. There's way more of these out there than there are any of the cat engines. These things were in boats and generators and trucks and equipment and everything you can think of. Yeah. This old truck's my baby. Sure like it. She works hard every time I need her. Darn it. I hope I brought enough oil. I won't be peeved if I didn't. And I'm thinking I didn't. I don't know what I was thinking. Sometimes I do stuff to myself. I know better. And what do? Same thing I did last time. It's kind of funny, these radiators. So, you know, when this truck came out, you would have been able to option the 3406B, the Silver 92 Detroit, or this engine. And all the Detroits always have two upper radiator hoses in these radiators still have, they just came with the openings for both. So no matter what the truck was spec'd with, you were just one part away from either having a Cat or a Detroit or a Cummins. You just put that little blocker plate in and away you go. Well, Pig, how short are we? A lot. Good night. Yes, too much. Peeb. Now we've got ourselves in a bind. We do not have another vehicle. Problem. We'll have to make a phone call. Anyways, I guess I'll finish this video while we're here. I don't know if that helps anybody, but if you were to buy a truck, when it comes down to it, for just an overall reliable engine, these 855s, you just can't hardly beat them. You know, for reliability, price, and just a good old engine. Those things are awesome. So, thanks for watching.